A book that I've been reading recently that I really encourage you to read if you have a chance to read it. It's a book called Crazy Love. I don't know if any of you have read that. A guy named Francis Chan wrote it, a pastor from California. But in that he says, the Bible is clear that each of us will stand before God and account for our lives. 2 Corinthians 5:10 says, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive what is due for what he has done in the body, whether good or evil. Francis Chan goes on and asks, what will people say about your life in heaven? Will people speak of God's work and glory through you? And even more important, how will you answer the king when he says, what did you do with what I gave you? Daniel Webster, one of our great spokesmen, just a patriot, so committed to our nation, committed to Christ, said, the greatest thought that has ever entered my mind is that one day I will have to stand before a holy God and give account for my life. That's sobering. But it's also something I think that we as public servants need to take into account. That I am accountable to each and every one of you, but I'm also accountable. Those things that I think are hidden that no one's going to see, I'm ultimately accountable to God. Practically, what does all this mean? How does it relate to us as Christians in a world where we have to make decisions impacting our government? A couple things. First of all, we are called to be good citizens. We should be doing everything to impact our world for good. Not because the law requires us to, but because, as Augustine talked about, we are doing it out of a love for God. So we are really serving those around us and giving back to our communities because of our love for God. So we should do it that much more passionately. It's not because the law makes us do it. We're not abiding by the laws because the laws make us do it, but because we're doing it because we love God. Second, Christians must carry out their civic duty in every walk of life. Where we go, everything we do should make an eloquent witness of our faith. In the process, we are strengthening self-government and limiting the state. For when we are active and serve other people, government has less opportunity to be intrusive. I love that idea. The church is being really the agent of impacting people. I really hate it right now that I think the federal government is trying to do away with what is the church's responsibility, of saying, you know what, you don't need to worry about the poor, we'll take care of them. You don't need to worry about the sick, we'll take care of them. You don't need to worry about the people in prison, we'll take care of them. They're trying to take away our responsibility as church, as members of the church. And I want to push that back a little bit and say, you know what, we can do it better. Locally, we can do it better. I've served in government on a local level, on a state level, and hopefully on a federal level. And I believe the best impact we can have is right here in our own community. The impact that you can have on your neighbors is so much better than the impact that the federal government can provide, whether it's health care, whether it's jobs, whether it's feeding the poor, taking care of the poor. That's our responsibility. Third, we must be engaged directly in politics. And this is really a passion that's been building in me. It hit me this summer. I just was so frustrated with the direction of our nation. I feel like we are so much of what's been fought for by our founding fathers, sacrificed so much for all that we have. It feels like it's been taken away. Where federal government is the only thing that's growing right now. The rest of our economy isn't growing. There's no other jobs other than government jobs that are growing. And that is absolutely a formula, a recipe for disaster. It's a house of cards that cannot stand when the only thing that grows is government. It should be just the opposite. Government should be shrinking and our opportunity should be growing. So I encourage you practically to be engaged, be involved, understand who's running for office coming up on February 2nd and next November, in November of 2010. Know who the candidates are and get out and vote. You have no excuse. And you've got absolutely no right to complain if you don't vote. So you better get out and vote. At least you have the right to complain about the candidates who get elected. You need to educate yourself. You need to understand the candidates' character, public service, and positions on issues. Join civic groups, political organizations. Consider running for office yourself. We need good people to run for office. People who have that moral character foundation. In all of this, we must be vigilant in keeping our priorities in order, not getting caught up in Potomac fever, where you get out there and all of a sudden your eyes kind of glaze over. Wow, look at all this money. Look at all the money I can make. No. I need to make sure that I'm grounded, that my responsibility is, first of all, ultimately to God, but also ultimately to you who elect me. And never forget that perspective. Last of all, the church needs to be that restraining agent in society, that we are fighting against government taking away our responsibilities as a church, of taking care of the poor, serving those in need, watching out for our neighbor. Unfortunately, when we think, you know what, I paid my taxes, that's all I need to do. As long as I paid my taxes, I don't have to worry about those poor people or those sick people, those people who don't have clothes. You know what? No, we still have to. That is our responsibility. And when government starts taking that away, we really lose something.